As of recording this, I think I'm in like $43,000 of debt. Now, for some of you, with a couple of credit cards with, a couple $1,000s on it, you look at that number and you literally, your brain is exploding. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Upgrade My Rituals podcast. Thank you for being here. My name is Kevin McKellar, your host, as per usual. And this is the show for high-performing solopreneurs, business owners, people that are just looking for really that much more productivity throughout a really tightly scheduled day and leveraging a system called ritual design. And today the conversation I want to have with you is not something that we often talk about when it comes to routines or daily action items, but is super, super important, and that is your finances. So what I want to do today on the episode is go through and let you know a little bit about my financial world. I'm going to put it out there, which I thought of doing a while ago, and I think it's a good thing to do. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the routines that got me to this somewhat negative place, some of the routines that I think really have worked for me over the last few years, and maybe some of the big overarching things with finances that will ultimately help you. So let's talk about what the majority of Americans have. And what the majority of Americans have is a negative net worth. If you own a home, most likely you have a mortgage on that home. And most likely whatever you have in savings, it doesn't even, come close to what you have you owe in your home. If you have college debt, you can add that one on. And, more and more, in the last few years, we've seen an incredible number of, people not really being able to start their lives because they have college debt, which is just insanely crippling, which is a whole nother conversation. You can have consumer debt, credit card debt, health bills, medical bills for that matter. You can have a million different ways that you will have a negative net worth, debt, crippling debt. And the problem is when we look at this overarching personal development productivity thing, right? And we want to make improvements in our lives, oftentimes resources cost money. And if we need to join a gym, if we need to buy gym equipment, if we need to up our diets, if we need to, buy a new productivity system, or if we need to, go to a retreat, whatever it is, a lot of times it costs money. Even a new book, right? If you want to buy a book, it's at least $15. So, money is a huge part of the equation. There is many ways around it, and we can make steps towards, improvement without, being really wealthy. But there comes a point where we often get strapped, right? In general, just living your life. Like when you're not in debt, the feeling is amazing. I know that because I once was. So I'm going to give you a little backstory of kind of where I was and where I am now. When I first got right out of college, I actually was a music teacher, and of all things, I was a music teacher, and that was the richest point in my life. I will never be as rich as I was when it was 2009, and I had a full-time job, and it was a decent paying job for 2009, right out of college, making like 56 grand or whatever. That was pretty good, and I lived at home. My only bill was my car. So my car insurance, maintenance, gas, it was really nothing. I was extremely fortunate to be living at home, and my parents really did everything they possibly could for me, that's a whole nother thing. I could not spend enough money fast enough. I couldn't spend it fast enough. I still kept saving and saving and saving. It was insane. I mean, we would go out to dinner, my buddies and me, at least twice, maybe even sometimes 3 times a week. We would, literally all of us drinks. It was great. It was the amount of money I blew, and I still saved so much money in that year. Now, I look at that and I look at that year and I look at some of the decisions or routines that I did with that, that money, and I kick myself. Let alone forget eating out. Let alone that. It's just the countless just silly spending. I don't even know what I spent on. But what's crazy is that I didn't have that much college debt. My parents took out loans for themselves. I saved some money. I worked through college. Like, I didn't have that much. I could have probably paid half of it off in that year. And I didn't. It was ridiculous, right? Anyway, flash forward over a decade later, and now I have a really great, I have a lot of assets, but I also have a tremendous amount of liabilities. As of recording this, I think I'm in like $43,000 of debt. Now, for some of you with a couple of credit cards with, a couple $1,000s on it, you look at that number and you literally, your brain is exploding. There are some of you who have almost $250,000 in debt with student loans, and you're still living at home. You haven't even progressed in that part of your life yet. And it's like, what? Right? It's like, where do I even, that's nothing, right? 50 or whatever it is. What's crazy is that within the last year and change, I forget the exact number, I actually paid a quarter of my entire debt off. I only have 42, 43 now. I originally started at 56. So now you can clearly see my routines around my financial decisions and what I'm actually doing with my finances in my routines has changed for the better, right? So the get out of debt date, and it's really fun to share with you all. My get out of debt date right now is May 2023, where I will have absolutely no more consumer debt other than my house and possibly a car. I have to make decisions around what I believe in that, it's consumer debt, but it's baby steps, right? So I am I'm really excited for that, and I'm really confident that it's going to happen because I have clarity. I have clarity in what I do on a daily basis with my money. I have a clarity in what I do on a monthly basis and, where my money is going. So let's take a look at kind of what I do with my routines in both the macro and the micro, how I've actually mapped it out in my ritual design. So macro planning, what I do with my finances is really nothing special, right? I have a 401k going. We have, like I said, we have a lot of assets or liabilities, however you want to call them. Like we have our own house. We have, both of us have a car. We have, my wife has no debt, and then I just have obviously my debt. And we both have obviously full-time jobs. My wife is actually a nurse practitioner for the pediatric center here in New York, and she's vested with the New York State retirement system. So like we have a lot all set for us. I just got to kind of knock out my debt, right? And now it's clearly been working with the progress I've made. So we have those systems in place, but what is it that we do on a macro level? So like I said, 401k, that comes out automatically, right? We don't think about it. And obviously her retirement, we don't think about what comes out because we've planned it. And once a year, one of our systems is to kind of go over it, check it, see what's happening. It's long-term though, right? We do not adjust it on a month per month or a quarter by quarter basis. If there's dips in the market, that's 100% okay, because if you've ever read, actually Tony Robbins did a good book on this. He like some money book or whatever. He spells out how the length of the length of time that you continuously invest in the market is overperforming over a 30, 40 year period, is overperforming if you try to time the market, no matter what. You can't time the market. You can't figure out when, a short-term debt cycle or whatever it is, right? So put your money in there continuously on a weekly or biweekly or even a maximum monthly basis. You continue to add to that retirement plan, and then most likely, if you just simply do that and, watch your account on a yearly basis, more frequently, you shouldn't have to be working at Walmart when you're 75. So, but the problem is that it's easy for me to say, right? What happens is when people can't get into a career that's, oh yeah, well, I'll just take, 10% of my income and invest it, 15% of my income. That sounds insane, but that's what's necessary because you have to be making enough to be able to invest in that. Therein lies the problem, right? Sometimes people can't find their way and they're just scraping the bottom of the barrel to be able to get by. So that's why they have to work at Walmart, because they haven't had enough, income to actually, put in. The problem, again, when it comes to routines with money, and we're getting a little off track, but it is your and only your responsibility and power. Meaning, if you are not a career-driven person, that's totally okay. If you, work as a, say you work as just simply like some kind of clerical work, right? Some type of office job. You make a little over, not a little over minimum wage, but something decent, but really not enough to do anything with. Here's what's really crazy is that everybody has the power to spend from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night building something else. It may be hard. You may have to take away from certain family time. You may have to take away from leisure, but you can do that. You can literally go to the stores and go to the clearance items and flip stuff on eBay. You can go and build a little side hustle thing online. There's literally countless things that you can do to increase your money enough to actually invest long term, right? So again, the routines and the systems that we put in place when it comes to our finances is super, super important and is super doable. You have the power to do that. The problem is here, right? When we get stuck, when somebody hears I have $42,000 of debt, aren't you terrified? Not at all, because I already paid a quarter of it off. It's cruising. Like there will be there because I have these systems in place. So that's when we totally off track, but we invest long term, right? Number two, we do not spend more than we make. And this is a big, if you ever follow Dave Ramsey, this is a big Dave Ramsey thing. It sounds simple, but sometimes very hard. Again, one of the reasons why I've gotten so much debt is because I just didn't make enough money, right? And I spent more than I did. Sometimes I was in positions when I was later in life that I wasn't overspending, but when I was younger, I didn't sacrifice my lifestyle. I was going to spend, and I had a credit card and I used it. Super irresponsible, super immature, and I learned a very valuable lesson, right? You can't spend money that you don't have. It's just that simple. But again, when sometimes we say to ourselves, and I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, I have to pay my car bill like this month. Like I don't even know how I'm going to. You know what? I got this ad in my email. It said a 0% interest rate for 12 months on a credit card. And then we begin the cycle of spending money we don't have. And then when something else happens, that car breaks down, we have to spend another $1,000, $2,000 to fix the transmission. Where are we going to spend? Oh, we have the credit card. All right, we'll just put it on there. And all of a sudden it unravels. So number two, we don't spend more money than we make. Number three, we do not go below a certain threshold in our account, our savings account. And if we do, we don't do anything else until we bring that account up. So basically another kind of Dave Ramsey thing, we have an emergency fund, right? We have an emergency fund anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000 sitting in our account that we don't touch. And my wife's really good at it, way better than I am. And I'm obviously now I'm much better, but like she doesn't even think it's like not even there. And the second it goes below 20,000, she gets stressed. She gets really anxious and upset. And that's awesome, right? At the same time, there's a balance of having to, be okay. And as long as you're taking the action to regaining that balance, then that's a different story. So those are really the only 3 simple principles that we as a couple follow. The only thing that I do in addition for our family is I keep track of the budget. So that's number 4, I budget. So what I'm able to do with the budget is not so much important to say like, oh, are we going to make it this month? Like, yeah, we're going to make it this month. But at the end of the month, to say, holy crap, like we spent over $800 in groceries for just the 2 of us. That doesn't make sense. We start digging in a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, well, we hosted, we had our parents over for like a Christmas dinner. So we like spent like, more money on like drinks and stuff like that. Okay, that makes sense this month. But those are simply the 4 macro things that I do with finances. Now, on a granular level, when it comes to your ritual design and what you do on a either daily or weekly basis when it comes to finances, again, I'll show you a couple of things that I do that might help. What I do is I try to adjust my budget or at least log my budget and all the transactions I use once a week, and I put that in the Keystone ritual, right? That's a perfect place that goes on either a Friday night or a Sunday afternoon, whatever. Whenever I do the Keystone, that's one of my items on there, right? So just check your budget. That way 3 weeks go by and you don't have 106 transactions that you have to log, and you say, I'll get to it. And then all of a sudden it falls apart, right? You don't keep a budget. So I do that. What I also do is here's another one, really a very stupid one, but if I ever go to an ATM, I always ask for the receipt, because there was one time that the receipt didn't come out. Excuse me. I asked for no receipt, like, no printed receipt, just show on the screen, and my money didn't come out. ATM was broken, and it was a nightmare. I never got the money. It was only like $40, but still, always ask for a receipt. But like I said, on the micro, that's pretty much all that I do now. Now, I used to, when I was figuring this all out and trying to get ahead and make sure that, my finances I was having enough income and I was really kind of strapped, I would have an envelope system where, and I did different things. I did a digital envelope system. I did a hard copy. Basically, what I mean by hard copy, I mean cash, and I would only spend certain things in cash. I would keep them in certain envelopes for the month. So if I had, a $200 for specifically food that we would eat out. So if we wanted to eat out for that month, whether that's a lot or a little to you, if January 20th came and we were out of money in that envelope, we weren't eating out for the rest of the month. So that's kind of something else that I do on a daily and weekly basis. I don't do that anymore just because I don't need to, right? I also obviously set goals for what we're going to either add to our savings or add to special micro savings accounts. So if we plan on going on a vacation, which right now we're not, but if we ever do, we would add at the beginning of the month a allotted amount to save for specifically that trip. Obviously, like I said, we're not going really anywhere, but if we know that we're going to have our boiler, inspected or done something with, we have to save money for that. So that's about it. And we do, kind of look at that once a month in like a little bit of a budget meeting, if you will. So we don't do too much really on the micro, but those few things, and those are things that are more mindset issues and more behavioral changes, because there's a lot of emotion tied to things we want, money we want to spend or not spend or whatever. It takes practice, but I promise you that if those are the only things that you do with your money, I think you'll have success. Because like I said, me personally, I know what it's like to be completely immature when it comes to spending or just blindlessly spending. And I now know what it is to be extremely mature and diligent with money. So those are the only things that I've done. And sometimes we have to go all the way back to how do we increase our income? Because that is, for most of us, that's the problem, right? Because I'm gonna cut myself off here for a second. Coupled with spending more than we make. So if we had a certain lifestyle at one point and then we're not able to provide for that lifestyle, we have to adjust. Like there has to be some adjustment there on either end. It doesn't matter, but usually both of those. Increase the income, decrease the spending, right? So however you want to do that. The beautiful thing about increasing your income is, again, it's completely up to you. There is nobody else that is saying you can't do this. So I will tell you this. There was one point in my life where I maxed out every credit card I had, couldn't apply for another one because my credit was so bad, and I had nothing left in my savings. And I was, at the point, I think I was dating my wife before we were married, and I went to go pick up pizza. And the pizza cost $17, and I couldn't do it. I could not literally provide for my family. Now, we could have had, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that night. They cost probably $3.50. But my point is, I broke down like crying, like really, really like gross crying, like hyperventilating, right? My point is that was probably one of the lower points of my life where I knew something had to change. I knew that we decided to eat pizza. We shouldn't have, because I knew how much money I didn't have in my account. I needed to be more, I needed to communicate better with my wife girlfriend at the time, about what was going on. I needed to do a lot of things on the daily, and I didn't, because the emotion is tied to it. And, I give myself some leeway now, but only because I've seen the light, if you will, right? Like, I now know is that you are 100% in control. It's hard. It's really hard, especially where we have all of these underlying subconscious thoughts that are taught to us by our parents and a generation behind us, where thriving wasn't the goal. It was surviving, right? Because their parents' generation, was like basically just post-depression. Like it just, like they were taught like it is not about, living comfortably. It's just living. So money doesn't grow on trees, right? You gotta, work hard to get ahead, which I agree, but with a little bit of a caveat. Like, you gotta work smart as well. That's not, how we were raised. That's, all these different cliche things. I think money growing on trees or money doesn't grow on trees is one of the most famous one that I have always heard. Also, not even just phrases. I mean, I love my mom, but she would get all the coupons out, and she would go to the supermarket, and she would really be, figuring out which food item is, 20 cents less or more or whatever it is. And when you add up all that throughout a lifetime, it doesn't make that much of a difference. As well as the fact that we prioritize healthy food. So when I go to the supermarket, I don't even look at the price ever. That's the first thing that we do, and we get everything that we need. Organic, yada, yada, whatever it may be, right? So that's kind of where where our priorities are. But either way, that is the subconscious things that we need to work through when it comes to our financial mindset. Having an abundance mindset, but at the same time balancing the lifestyle that you live according to how much money you make. Those are the things that, like I said, the things that I do on a daily and weekly and monthly basis. It's really not hard. Most of the time, like I said, it comes back to the two things: your income and your lifestyle. And that's so easy for me to say, right? But I can't relate to you. Actually, I can't relate to you at all, because I don't live your life. So I don't know your specific situation. I can only imagine what it is. And the reason why I could imagine it is because I had my own version of that, and I still do in a way, right? But that is what it's all about, right? Being able to look forward and say, okay, May 2023, that's the day that I will be out of debt. How far away am I? How do I know that? Well, I've done the math. I figured out what payments I need, at what interest rates are on what payments, and how much more money I could add to that. And as long as I keep on track every month, that shouldn't change. Now, again, life changes. I can have a promotion at work. I could lose my job. I can, get in an accident and have medical bills, or I can, hit the lottery. Who knows, right? I do not play the lottery. That's another thing. Don't play the lottery, please. I just look at the math behind lottery tickets and how that is just like the worst thing you could do with your money. Also, don't smoke cigarettes too, because those things are really expensive. Anyway, I digress. That's it for today. I hope this has made you think about your daily financial routines, your weekly financial routines. Have you even thought about that? Or are you right on track with me where you know the numbers, right? It's knowing the math behind what you want to accomplish and what you need to change. Those are really the two things here when it comes to money. I think I might revisit this. I think this is an interesting topic when it comes to like I said, productivity on a daily and weekly basis. I would love to hear your thoughts about finances, meaning your own personal finances, and what that means to you, what goals you have set, what things you want to accomplish and change. Please, if you can, leave a comment and let me know where you stand on personal finances and how you are incorporating those into your daily routines or your ritual design for that matter. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Please, if you like this, leave it and share it with a friend who maybe has some money troubles, or maybe who is doing awesome with money, and say, hey, is he doing the right things? Like, I don't know. I hear different things from everybody. Please subscribe and leave a review, which would be awesome. And of course, I will see you next week on the Upgrade My Rituals podcast.